Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We'll be talking about the facts about prediabetes and how you can prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Some of the topics include what is prediabetes, what is diabetes, what you can do about it, and what steps you can start taking today. All right, let's get started. The goal of these sessions is to provide resources so that you can review the material on your own time and in small steps. The website will offer 3 sessions about prediabetes and taking small steps to create healthier habits to prevent type 2 diabetes. Each session will be broken into 4 to 6 minute information pieces. This way you can go at your own pace. Some people like to go in order, others like to jump around by topic, and then sometimes you may listen to a few sessions and then come back in the next day or two and listen to the rest of the sessions. Our goal is to meet you where you are and at a time that works best for you. The program is set up into 3 separate sessions so that you can learn some information and then implement some of the changes that you want to make, and then to come back about 4 weeks later, and then you can review what went well and what you'll do differently for the next 4 weeks. In the second and third sessions, we'll provide additional tools to help you implement some of those small steps to prevent or delay the onset of type 2 diabetes. In session 1, we'll cover what is prediabetes and why it's important. We'll discuss the risk factors for prediabetes and diabetes. We'll also take a few minutes to talk about what the blood glucose or blood sugar values mean when your medical provider refers to those numbers. And then lastly, we'll talk about what you can do now and the steps you can take to prevent type 2 diabetes. First of all, let's discuss what is prediabetes. Prediabetes is a health condition when the glucose in your blood is above the normal range, yet not so high that you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. But blood glucose is also known as blood sugar. You may have heard both terms. For the sake of simplicity, we'll use the term blood sugar. Some doctors may use different terms for prediabetes. It's not always easy to share this information with the patient. So you may have heard a medical provider use the term borderline diabetes, a touch of diabetes, or maybe just a little bit of diabetes. Remember that prediabetes means that your blood sugar is higher than normal, and then if you continue on the same path, you greatly increase your risk of developing diabetes. Saying a touch of diabetes is like saying you have a touch of pregnancy. It doesn't really make sense. Many people don't know that they have prediabetes. The Centers for Disease Control estimates that almost 84 million Americans have prediabetes. And out of that group, almost 90% don't realize that they have it. This may be why your employer or your health insurance company encourages you to have your labs run each year when you meet with a medical provider to help raise awareness of your health status. If prediabetes is diagnosed, the next step is to create healthier lifestyle habits. Why is this important? Sometimes patients ask us this question. They say that it seems everyone has prediabetes, their family genetics played a significant role, and they feel that there's little they can do to prevent type 2 diabetes. Our response is this: it is important. Prediabetes is a serious health concern. You can take steps today to reverse or delay the onset of type 2 diabetes. Having prediabetes does increase your risk of developing diabetes and other heart diseases. Also, if the disease progresses and type 2 diabetes does develop, it increases the risk of serious health complications, including blindness, kidney disease, and heart disease. At this point, there is no cure for diabetes. So our goal is to work together and to provide you with information, resources, and tools to help you prevent or delay the development of type 2 diabetes. So now we do know that prediabetes is important. So imagine that you're at a fork in the road, and if you continue on the same path that you've been on, that right-hand path, that some of the choices that have been made will increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes and all those health complications that we just discussed. So instead, choosing that left pathway, it's a different pathway. It does involve making some new changes, but it can lead to either preventing or delaying the onset of type 2 diabetes. We know that making lifestyle changes may pose new challenges, like carving out time for activity, changing up meal plans, finding new recipes, new food items in the store. But many people find that these changes are easier to make than the changes needed once they did actually develop type 2 diabetes. So we have a saying that we like to use in the Office of Wellness, that an ounce of prevention now is better than a gallon of treatment later. And taking that left pathway is the first ounce of prevention. Let's review what diabetes is. Diabetes happens when the body cannot produce enough insulin, or the cells are resistant to insulin, or the insulin is not working correctly. And then that sugar stays in the blood versus going into the cell. So diabetes is a medical condition where the glucose or the sugar is too high in your blood. And if you have high blood sugar long term, it can lead to some of the serious health complications that we discussed a few slides ago. We'll talk a little bit more about the biology of diabetes at the next slide. In the next two slides, we'll talk about how the body works without diabetes when we eat carbohydrates and how our body absorbs it and uses carbs for energy. And so if we look at the slide, what we can see is when somebody eats an apple, which is a carbohydrate, is that once it's digested, we're breaking the carbohydrates down into individual glucose or sugar molecules, and then those sugars enter the bloodstream, and then we're going to transfer them to each of the tens of thousands of cells in our body so that we have energy to do the activities that we love to do. So quick recap, when we eat carbs, our body converts them into glucose or sugars, and then they travel through the bloodstream, and then we transfer them from the bloodstream to the many cells in our bodies. And so there's one more step. So once we have those sugars in the bloodstream, we need to get them into the cell so we can use them for energy. The catch is those sugars can't get in the cell by themselves. So when we eat carbohydrates, our body senses this, and then there's another organ, our pancreas, that produces insulin, and then it releases it in the bloodstream, and that insulin travels through the blood, and then it acts as a key to open up the cell door. So now that sugar can leave the bloodstream and can enter the cell so that we can use it for energy. Remember that carbs are the main source of fuel for our brain, our red blood cells, and for energy. We still need to consume them. It's just important that we choose healthier options and healthy portion sizes. We'll review more about that in a bit. So how does the body work with diabetes? So with type 2 diabetes, when we eat carbs, they are still converted into glucose or sugars and transferred to the bloodstream. Since the body does not produce enough insulin, or if the cells are resistant to insulin, that sugar is staying in the blood, and that's resulting in high blood sugar. So our goal with prediabetes is to reduce the insulin resistance so that the sugar leaves the bloodstream and it can enter the cell so it can be used for energy. Remember, carbohydrates are important. They are the main source of fuel for our body. It's just important that we choose those healthier options. Let's review risk factors for type 2 diabetes. Notice that there are two columns on the page. The column on the left-hand side includes risk factors that we cannot change, and the column on the right-hand side includes risk factors that we can change, meaning that if we implement small steps, we can decrease our risk for type 2 diabetes. Let's start with the items on the left. The first item is family history. If we have a first-degree relative, which means mother, father, brother, or sister that has type 2 diabetes, then we are at a higher risk. The second item is age. Once we reach the age of 45 years or older, we have an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. The third bullet point includes certain races and ethnicities. These populations are predisposed to genetically develop type 2 diabetes. These include African Americans, Hispanics, Latino Americans, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, and some Asian Americans. The last item on the left-hand side is if a person has a history of gestational diabetes, or a baby born that is greater than 9 pounds, or a history of PCOS, all those factors also increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So now let's switch to the right side. These are items that are lifestyle habits, and if we fall in any of these categories, we do have an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. The first two include too little activity, or you may have heard the term sedentary behavior. The second item is being overweight, particularly if the weight is around the abdomen or the stomach area. If we are making unhealthy eating choices, either by food selection or beverage selection or large portion sizes, this may increase our risk for developing type 2 diabetes. The next ones are use of smoking or tobacco use. And the last item is high blood pressure or high cholesterol. The cholesterol numbers that put you at a higher risk are either high triglycerides or low HDL cholesterol. So remember that one of our goals is to stay positive and to empower you with the facts to prevent type 2 diabetes. So we're going to take those items on the right and we're going to discuss different things that we can do to decrease our risk of type 2 diabetes. So let's start with activity. If we can increase our activity or our movement, that will help us prevent type 2 diabetes. For now, I want you to think of something fun that you enjoy doing that increases your heart rate to a moderate pace. We'll review more specifics in the next few slides. But for now, increasing our activity and getting our heart pumping, it can help in two ways. One, it helps the insulin work better or more efficiently, so then we get more sugar out of the blood and into the cell, and this will help lower our overall blood sugar. Secondly, if we get our heart rate up continuously for 10 minutes at a time, it helps increase our metabolism, which means we burn more calories and will contribute to that weight loss. So what we also know is that losing 5 to 10% of the current body weight will have a significant effect on those blood sugar levels. And again, that will help us prevent type 2 diabetes. For the next item, if we can choose some healthier options, such as adding color to our plate with a variety of non-starchy vegetables, that will help us decrease some of the other portion sizes and then also contribute to weight loss. For those that are using tobacco or smoking, we do have several resources if you are ready to make some of those changes as well too. We'll talk more about lowering blood pressure and lowering the triglycerides in session 2 of this website. But for now, the good news is that eating more vegetables, choosing whole grains, increasing the activity, and weight loss, all of these will help you prevent type 2 diabetes as well as lower your blood pressure and those triglycerides. That's a pretty good deal. In the beginning of the slides, we talked about how the CDC estimated that 84 million people have prediabetes, and yet almost 90% of those people do not know it. This is because most people report no symptoms with prediabetes. The American Diabetes Association does recommend that people who are overweight or obese and have one of the listed risk factors that we just discussed should be tested for prediabetes or diabetes. If it's easier, you can also take the CDC risk test to do the beginnings of an assessment. So just click on the blue link, prediabetes quiz, and it'll take you to that website. If you are at risk, please talk to your medical provider and consider a simple blood test to check your status. If you're at a higher risk of prediabetes, there are 2 simple blood tests that your medical provider can test: a fasting blood sugar or a hemoglobin A1C. The first is a fasting blood sugar, and the term fasting means that you have not eaten for a minimum of 7 to 8 hours. Please note that we do not recommend that you use a home meter for this test, but see your medical provider, as their labs have a much higher accuracy rate. You can see on the chart a result of 99 milligrams per deciliter or less indicates blood sugars in the normal range. A result between 100 and 125 indicates a diagnosis of prediabetes, while a result of 126 or greater may indicate a diagnosis of diabetes. But please check with your medical provider, as they may have you take the additional second test. So the second blood test that you can use to check to see if you're at risk for prediabetes or diabetes is a hemoglobin A1C. We'll just call it an A1C for short. This test tells you the average blood sugar level over the past 2 or 3 months by measuring how much sugar is attached to your red blood cells. Recall that when you eat carbohydrates, they are digested and converted to glucose or sugars, and then travel through the bloodstream attached to a protein in your red blood cell called a hemoglobin. So the A1C tests the percentage of sugar attached to that protein. Note that we all have some sugar attached to our red blood cells, but if your cells are resistant to insulin, then there is more sugar in your blood and the A1C percentage will be higher. So again, if you look at the chart, a result of 5.6% or less indicates blood sugars in the normal range. A result between 5.7 and 6.4% indicates a diagnosis of prediabetes. A result of 6.5% or greater may be indicative of diabetes. Again, please check with your medical provider regarding any questions of your specific results. In the next slide, or if you're watching this in smaller parts, in the next video, we'll discuss a clinical trial that demonstrated the positive effects of modest weight loss, increased activity, and healthy eating, and how these steps can reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. If you are at risk for diabetes or you have been diagnosed with prediabetes, there are steps you can take to prevent the development of type 2 diabetes. In 2002, the results of a large clinical trial were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The researchers wanted to study the effects of medication versus lifestyle changes with people that were both overweight and had prediabetes. The study investigated over 3,200 participants across the United States. The results that we'll discuss were powerful, especially as the results were the same for all participants, regardless of gender, age, race, or social economic status. So in the study, there were 3 groups. The first group was the placebo group, and they received basically fake pills instead of medication. They were also given additional information about weight loss, increasing activity, and healthy eating. The second group took the oral medication metformin. Metformin is a drug to treat diabetes. Additionally, they were also given general information on healthy eating, activity, and weight loss. And then we had the third group, and this was what we call the lifestyle change group. They received no medication, but received intensive individual counseling on healthy eating, moving more, and other lifestyle changes. They were given specific goals to lose 5 to 10% of their body weight and to increase their activity to a minimum of 150 minutes a week of moderate activity. The weight loss goal of 5 to 10% was based on previous studies showing that that amount was achievable and sustainable within a 6-month period. Most study participants used brisk walking as their activity. The results were impressive. 3 years later, the study found the following. The subjects or participants that took metformin, they reduced their risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 31% when compared to the placebo group. Then, the lifestyle change group reduced their risk of diabetes by 58% when compared to the placebo group. This is better than the medication group. Again, those are impressive results. Additionally, if the participants were 60 years or older, they reduced the risk of diabetes by 71% when compared to the placebo group. Remember, the findings were the same regardless of the participants' gender, age, race, or social economic group. I want to note out two important items. Most participants that reduced their risk of developing type 2 diabetes lost about 7% of their body weight. So it was not a large number, but it was moderate weight loss. For example, if somebody lost 200 pounds, this would be about 14 pounds. Secondly, that their average weekly physical activity was higher than recommended. It was about 224 minutes a week. That's about 45 minutes a day. In this study, losing weight was the most effective method to prevent the development of type 2 diabetes. We realize that for some, these lifestyle changes are significant. It's a quick reminder that type 2 diabetes is a disease that can be managed, but at this point it cannot be cured, whereas prediabetes can be reversed. While that may be some somber, the good news is that for many people, making lifestyle changes may prevent or delay the onset of type 2 diabetes. So we're going to give you the 3-minute pitch on the next slide. What steps can you start with today to prevent or develop type 2 diabetes? Now that we have the facts, we're going to present a quick pitch about the things you can do today to increase your activity, eat healthier, and lose weight. We do have more detailed information regarding a healthy eating plan or how much activity we need. So if you're interested in more information, keep listening or go to the next video. So let's start with activity or movement. First, think about what movement you enjoy that also brings your heart rate up to a moderate pace. Focus on what fits in your schedule and what you like to do. Otherwise, it's hard to stay motivated day in and day out if exercise feels like it's a chore or another thing on your to-do list. Do you like to walk briskly? Do you like to ride a bike, indoors or outdoors? Do you enjoy dancing or swimming? If you have any medical complications or physical limitations, please check with your medical provider prior to starting any type of activity, exercise, or fitness class. Most importantly, add in at least 15 minutes of continuous activity today. So let's move over to healthy eating. Again, this is just a quick pitch. We have more information in the next few slides or the next video. 1. Think about increasing your intake of non-starchy vegetables to at least half your plate at lunch and dinner. Think about eating out less often and maybe packing your lunch. It's an easy way to control your portion sizes. Lastly, rethink your drink. What are you drinking? If it includes sweet tea, regular soda, lemonade, fruit juice, or some of the flavored coffees, we recommend that you swap it out for some less sugary options. There's a great handout on the website where you found this video. And regarding fruit juice, sometimes we grew up thinking it was healthy. We do recommend that you eat your fruit versus drinking it. Also, think about weight loss. What is a healthy weight loss? We normally recommend starting with a 5 to 10% goal. Because remember from the study, a modest weight loss had a significant impact on lowering the blood sugar. It's also important how fast you lose that weight. So if you weigh between 150 to 200 pounds, normally a healthy weight loss rate would be about a pound a week. If you weigh between 200 and 250 pounds, then losing 1 to 2 pounds per week is a healthy rate. If you're over 250 pounds, it could be 2 to 3 pounds a week. Sometimes, if we're not making healthy changes and we're losing weight too fast, there can be some medical complications. Do these small changes really work? We have many patients that ask us that. The answer is a definite yes. When we look at the research, it does show that losing 5 to 7% of your current weight, increasing your activity, and eating a healthier lifestyle can cut your risk of developing type 2 diabetes in half. So what does healthy eating mean? My recommendation is to consider this a healthy eating plan, one that is sustainable for many years and decades to come. To be frank, I'm not a big fan of the word diet or diets for several reasons. One, most diets are a program that you start and then you stop, and that implies it's not a lifelong habit, but a short-term solution with the possibility of regaining weight. Secondly, most diets are restrictive and hard to follow, which again means that they are not sustainable long-term. And lastly, diet is a 4-letter word and it should not be used at the dinner table. But seriously, let's start with a basic plan. And on the next slide, you will see what we recommend and different ideas to fill your plate. For more information, come back for session 2, because then we'll talk about the role of fiber, the role of fat. We'll talk about some lean protein options, and we may even have some time to take a deeper dive into some of the current diet trends that are out there. Remember earlier on in the videos that we were talking about carbohydrates and how they provide fuel for our body. With prediabetes, we do need to consider how many carbohydrates that we're eating. And so we do want to pay attention to how much grains we're eating. That could be bread, rice, pasta, or tortilla. It could be some of the starchy vegetables. It could be milk, yogurt, or ice cream, and it can be fruit. But let's head to the next slide that's got the image that goes into much more detail. The plate image is a good visual to help you eat healthy, whether you're eating at a restaurant, a buffet, a holiday party, a potluck, or at home. So first of all, we want you to focus on about 50% of your plate being non-starchy vegetables, at least at lunch and dinner. Breakfast sometimes is a little bit tougher. This does mean that some vegetables contain more starch, and we'll talk about those when we talk about the foods that are higher in carbohydrates. For some ideas on vegetables, especially if that's not your favorite, we did post a handout on the website that lists several different vegetables by season. If you buy vegetables in season, they tend to be less expensive. Also, consider buying frozen vegetables. Several of the grocery stores in town, including Harmon's, Target, Walmart, and Smith's, and Dan's, they have some great opportunities to buy frozen vegetables and that are just as nutritious as your fresh ones, but at a much lower cost. So then let's move on to the protein. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, we always encourage people to consume protein at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes even a snack. Most Americans get enough protein, but we don't necessarily spread it out, or we don't always make the healthier choices. Healthier choices for lean protein include chicken, turkey, fish, salmon, tuna fish, eggs, cheese in moderation, or lean cuts of pork or beef. It may also include tofu, a small amount of nuts, seeds, and also legumes. You'll see in the fine print on that image that we do want people to minimize the processed meats. It's not that they're bad foods. We just recommend that you decrease how much you eat and how often you eat them. Maybe they become more like treat foods, like once or twice a month. Some processed meats include sausage, bacon, pepperoni, and salami. And since they're higher in saturated fat and sodium, remember that with having prediabetes, it does increase your risk of heart disease. And so we recommend the leaner protein choices. So that remaining 25% of your plate, this is where we suggest that you put the healthy carbohydrates. So let's review some of those food groups. So the first food group is the whole grain. This could include bread, pasta, rice, crackers, tortillas, several different types of grains like quinoa and couscous. When choosing these products, we always recommend that people choose whole grain. It has higher fiber in it, and it helps prevent such a spike of blood sugar, and also helps you feel a little bit more full, so then you'll eat less carbs and keep your lean protein in portion size. That second food group of foods that are higher in carbohydrates are your starchy vegetables. These include all potatoes, corn, peas, and beans. The type of beans here are legumes, and so we are discussing lentils, red beans, black beans, chickpeas. They're a great source of plant protein and they're healthy for you. We just want to pay attention to portion size. That third food group is fruit. Fruit is really good for you. It contains many nutrients, including fiber. We do recommend that you keep it maybe under about 2 cups a day because fruit is higher in sugar. We also recommend that people don't drink fruit juice because it's straight sugar without some of that fiber. So my favorite saying is, eat your fruit, don't drink it. And then the last food group that's higher in carbohydrates is the milk, yogurt, and ice cream. Again, there's many nutrients in the milk and the yogurt, especially Greek yogurt. It has a lot of protein in it, so it's a nice choice for breakfast. We just want to be careful with how much that we're having. One thing also to think about when you're looking at this plate is what is the size of the plate? We recommend keeping the plate to about 8 or 9 inches. It will help you keep your food under healthy portion controls. Also, think about your drink. If you are drinking regular soda or sweet iced tea or lemonade or fruit juice, think about swapping that out with carbonated water or plain water. You can put a slice of fruit in any of those. You could try raspberry and mint. You could try mint and cucumber. And there's lots of great carbonated waters out there. Just make sure, some of them do have some added sugar, so make sure you're reading that label. Other versions are you can do herbal tea, hot or iced, same with black tea or green tea as well too. Lastly, we just want to talk a little bit about treat size and frequency. Again, I had referenced life is too short never to have chocolate again. Depending on where your activity is, if you're less active, meaning only once or twice a week, maybe you only have 1 or 2 small treats a week. If you're more active, maybe you have a small treat every other day. So a typical treat size, I normally say, is about 100-150 calories. And it could be one of those little snack size candy bars that they pass out at Halloween. It could be half a cup of ice cream or gelato. It could be 2 small cookies. Think of your typical Oreo size. For some people, it may be more savory items. It may be a cup of tortilla chips. Or if you're enjoying pizza with a nice big green salad on the side, I would consider pizza a treat, so maybe that's your treat for the day or for the week. Let's move on to activity. Let's move on to the topic of activity. This can be any movement that you enjoy where your heart rate is at a moderate pace. There are many opportunities each day to find movement to help with weight loss and to lower the blood sugars. Some daily activities include vacuuming, raking leaves, clearing snow from the driveway, walking the dog, or walking to and from the parking lot to the office. Other options could include brisk walking, riding a bike, swimming, dancing, boxing, fitness classes, anything that's getting your heart rate up. So there are 2 things to focus on. The first is the moderate heart rate, and the second is to keep the heart rate up continuously for 12 to 15 minutes at a time. So what does a moderate heart rate mean? This means if you're walking with a friend and you're talking, you should need to pause mid-sentence to catch your breath. If you can talk easily or sing, it's great that you're walking and not sitting. But if your goal is weight loss, we need the heart to be pumping at a moderate rate to help with weight loss and to lower the blood sugar. Secondly, it's important that when doing these activities that your heart rate is at a moderate pace continuously for 12 to 15 minutes. Some of our patients experience frustration that they're walking or reaching the 10,000 steps a day, but they're not seeing weight loss. It may be that their heart rate is not at a moderate level for that continuous 12 to 15 minute period. Many patients ask us about other housework, such as dusting and laundry, doing dishes, etc., or other activities like yoga, stretching, lifting weights. All of these activities are very important. They contribute to overall movement and to maintaining or building strength. However, if you're only doing these activities, they may not be enough to reach your weight loss goal. Keep these movements in your daily and weekly habits and add in the cardio in 15-minute bouts. Remember, for weight loss and to lower the blood sugar, it's really important to have the moderate heart rate and to have the duration component. So the recommended activity at a moderate rate for weight loss is 45 to 60 minutes 5 times a week. This seems like a big number some days. The good news is that you can be moving in 15-minute bouts versus trying to do everything at one time. So for example, we had a patient that would walk 12 to 15 minutes from the parking lot to her office building, and then she would walk anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes at lunch, and then another 12 to 15 minutes back to her car. So within her normal workday, she was able to find 3 different times to help her reach her overall goal of 45 to 50 minutes that day. So where is your current activity? If you're just starting out, consider walking briskly for about 15 minutes a day. Start there, and then each week you can add 5 minutes to the week. So for example, you can see in that first week, the person walked 4 times at 15 minutes each time, and then the next week they added in a day, so they're walking 5 times a week, and they moved up to a 20-minute walk. The important item to focus on is moving and doing something you enjoy. It's important to spread the activity throughout the day and the week versus saving it all for the weekend. The body needs daily movement, and the heart is healthier with moderate activity every other day or most days of the week. So where do you want to start? I think we're ready to set some goals, and then you can work on those, and then you can come back and take session 2. Now that you have the facts about prediabetes, we'll work on setting 3 SMART goals today for the healthy lifestyle habits that you want to start. Return to the website and download this SMART goal document. In the next few slides, we'll walk through an example of a SMART goal, and then we'll have you create your own goals, work on them for the next few weeks, and then return for session 2. For step 1, identify and write down 2 to 3 high-level or umbrella goals that you would like to work towards to help you prevent type 2 diabetes. Think about some of those healthy habits that you think you can start implementing in the next 1 or 2 days. We recommend that you pick at least 1 activity goal and 1 healthy eating goal that will help you with your weight loss goal. Remember, from the diabetes prevention study, the researchers found that weight loss was the most effective tool to prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Reaching your activity goal and eating healthier will contribute to the desired weight loss. See the examples provided. This person decided to increase their activity with a walking plan, to eat more vegetables. Remember, we want half your plate full of non-starchy vegetables at lunch and dinner, and they want to work towards decreasing the intake of regular soda. Take a few minutes and write in your 3 goals, and when you're ready, hit next and go to the next slide. In step 2, this includes making each of those 3 high-level goals into a SMART goal. The word SMART is an acronym for being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and includes a time frame. An example of a non-SMART goal would be, I'm going to run 6 miles every day before work this winter. Probably not very realistic. So let's walk through an example of a SMART goal with the idea of starting a walking plan. So where will this person walk? What is convenient for them and safe for them? Where they work, there is a park, and so they decide they're going to walk around the park near work. What time works best for them? This person prefers to walk at lunchtime, so they'll walk on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and then when they're home, they'll walk on Saturdays. When we pick where we're going to start time-wise, we want an achievable goal, so this person will start walking for 20 minutes, and then every week or 2, they'll increase it by 5 minutes. Remember, the long-term goal is to find 45 to 60 minutes most days of the week where you can get your heart rate up. And remember, this can be done in 15-minute bouts. It's also important to evaluate how you track your success. This person likes to put a big check mark on their calendar. So we took that general goal of starting with a walking plan and we made it specific and measurable and achievable. And the new goal is to walk for 20 minutes at their lunch break at the park on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and then to walk at home on Saturdays. In step 3, we create backup plans so that when life presents us with speed bumps or other barriers, we have a plan to stay on track with our goals. Think of the hot summer months here in Utah. Most people don't like to walk in 100-degree temperatures. So a backup plan could be walk before work, or if you're not a morning person, consider taking your lunch break at 10 a.m. or walking after dinner. Another barrier could be having low motivation or feeling tired. A backup plan here could include finding a coworker, neighbor, family member, or friend to walk with you. If you're looking forward to catching up with a friend, that may help increase motivation to find time for activity. Please take 5 or 10 minutes to create a backup plan for your goals. Remember, any step you take today towards a healthier lifestyle will help you on your path to prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Great work learning the facts about prediabetes, plus identifying and setting goals to prevent or delay the development of type 2 diabetes. Continue to work towards your goals each day. We encourage you to have backup plans. If you get off track one day, get back on track at the next meal or the next opportunity for movement. Many times, the person that wins the race is the person that fell and got up the quickest. Identifying positive experiences and moments of gratitude can significantly affect our outlook each day. At the same time each day, identify 3 things for which you are grateful. They can be large or small items. And then share these thoughts with a loved one. Continue doing this daily for 14 days. We'll come back to this practice in the next session. So again, thank you for your time, and please come back for sessions 2 and 3. We look forward to continuing to work with you on the path to a healthier lifestyle. One of my favorite Audrey Hepburn quotes is this: "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible." If you would like more support now, consider these 2 options. If you are interested in being a participant in the Diabetes Prevention Program, please click on the blue link and it will take you to both online and in-person classes. If you would like to meet with a registered dietitian, you may call the Skaggs Patient Wellness Center at the number listed below or at the email, and they will put you in contact with a registered dietitian at your closest location. Again, remember to return for additional sessions in early 2019. We look forward to working with you in preventing type 2 diabetes. Thank you and have a great day.